All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's event. This is our July 2020 Portals community call. Welcome back if you've been to it before. If not, thanks for joining for the first time. Our main presenter today, as usual, is Nicholas Hayduck of Engineered Code. And as always, Nick leads these events as a chance to update you all on what's happening with portals, take your questions as well. And today is no different. We will be taking questions. Look for the questions block in the webcast interface. You can enter your questions anytime, and there will be time at the end to take those. We also have a special guest today, Oliver Rodrigues. It's great to have him with us for the first time, and I'll let Nick and Oliver introduce themselves in a little more detail. One other note, we are recording today's event. We will be sending that out afterwards as well. So Nick, I'm going to hand things off to you to take us forward.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Well, yeah, as Jason mentioned there, thank you for showing up today and for your interest in portals and hanging out with us for the hour today. I'm really excited. It's our first time that we've had a kind of a guest presenter here, so I'm really excited about that. Just to get things started here, just a quick introduction. As Jason mentioned, my name is Nicholas Hayduck. I am the president and a software engineer with Engineered Code Consulting, Inc., based in Regina, Saskatchewan, Canada. I am a Microsoft MVP, and I have been working with what's now known as Power Apps Portals for almost 10 years now. I started my career with ADX Studio, which was the company that originally created the portals and was acquired by Microsoft in 2015. You'll see my social media on the screen there. So whether it's LinkedIn, Twitter, my blog, or the YouTube channel that I run, happy if you'd follow me or connect with me or reach out or tweet or whatever the kids are calling it these days. Happy to connect with anyone. Always happy to chat portals. So if you do have any kind of questions or anything like that, you can reach me through those channels. And again, I always like to thank Jason and the folks at MS Dynamics World for kind of helping me run this and providing the GoToWebinar and helping me coordinate and getting the word out. So really appreciate all the support that Jason and his team have been giving me. We're now, I think this is the 7th one that we've done because we started in January, I believe. So yeah, so far so good. So what is today's agenda? We've got some news. We've got actually quite a bit of news that we're going to cover today. And then we'll on to today's featured topic, which, as I kind of mentioned, we've got Oliver Rodrigues today, who is a rock star on the community forum. So if you've ever asked a question about portals on the forums, there's a very high chance that Oliver was the guy who answered your question. So I've asked him to kind of come on and talk about some of the most common questions that he sees and kind of some of the solutions to those. So really happy to have him today. We'll talk about the time of the next portals community call and leave some time for a Q&A. Of course, if you have any questions throughout the hour here, please do kind of drop those on the questions in the questions functionality there that's included with the GoToWebinar. So please go ahead and you can do that at any time. We try to keep an eye on that while we're presenting. So, all right, let's talk about the portals news. So, if you've ever been in one of these calls before, you know how excited I am about the CRUD API. And the good news is that it is now available in preview. So it does require that the version that you have of your portal be 9.2.6.41 or later. Which is, I believe, that's kind of still a little bit early release. So I think you need to have your portal turned on for early release if you want to get it kind of right away. But the good news is it is available for people to start playing with. So the documentation, I've got that link there. The documentation for the web API is available. There isn't too much kind of groundbreaking in that documentation that we weren't able to cover in the session, kind of the sneak peek that we got a little while ago. So, the big things is that it does enforce, it enforces entity permissions. The way that you turn it on is, you got to have entity permissions, and then there's some site settings that you can enable where you say, hey, I want to turn it on specifically for these entities. it's a RESTful kind of OData type service, so it's kind of familiar if you've already used the kind of the web API for, I guess what was CDS and now is DataFlex Pro. If you're kind of familiar with the web API for that, it's very similar in terms of it being an OData endpoint. So the thing that I was pleasantly surprised about is that if you go to the documentation, Microsoft actually has a very a very detailed example of essentially somewhat of a kind of an editable grid type functionality that's implemented using the web API. So there's some very good documentation. I think there's 3 pages worth, and one of the pages is very, very long. So lots of great documentation on kind of how to set it up, and a really kind of detailed, great example of how to use it. So and lots of kind of great starter code, because you have to kind of make sure that you're handling authentication, and well, actually you don't have to handle authentication so much as the cross-site forgery token that you have to include. So there's some kind of helper code that they give you for that. So it's really a very complete example. So I was very happy to see that. Something that you can definitely check out if your current portal maybe doesn't have that version. If you spin up a trial, you'll probably get one of these later versions. So it's something that you can play with today. So that's great. Very excited about that. News number 2. So we've also, since we've last had a call here, we got the 2020 Wave 2 release plan. And so what does that mean for portals? Now, as we'd expect, the Portal Studio has some additions. That's really kind of where Microsoft is focusing a lot of their effort. I see a comment here. Very good documentation from Microsoft. First time for anything, huh? Do you know what? I have to give Microsoft quite a bit of credit on the documentation on portals, kind of where it came since the acquisition of EDX Studio. There's lots of great documentation. I find it sometimes it's not necessarily the easiest place to find it. So that, I mean, there's been stuff where I didn't realize the documentation existed. It was kind of maybe not in the place that I was expecting it, but there is quite a there's a lot of documentation on portals. So I got to kind of give them credit for really improving the quality of the documentation. So that's been good. But anyways, so the release plan. So the Portal Studio. So what are we getting in the Portal Studio? We got the Power Virtual Agents. I mean, to be honest with you, it sounds exciting, but really it's not a new capability. It's instead of kind of copying and pasting some JavaScript code, there's kind of a nicer UI, similar to kind of how the Power BI that they released is just kind of, rather than having to do liquid code, you can just kind of do it with the UI. So, I mean, that's nice for people who are maybe not so comfortable looking at the code side of things, as well as entity permissions. So, be able to configure and set up your entity permissions through the Portal Studio. So those are a couple things. Again, I believe when I wrote this, the release notes said that they'd be available for preview in October. But to be honest, that's not what really anyone has been talking about. What everyone's been talking about is PCF controls. And so PCF controls are, if you're not familiar, essentially kind of a modular way of writing JavaScript components that right now are supported both in model-driven apps and Canvas apps. And we've been kind of waiting for these to be available for portals. And yeah, so we were pretty excited when we saw the release notes and they said PCF control in preview in December. So yeah, and so then the CRUD Web API, you can see that it's scheduled to be generally available February 2021. To be honest with you, when we saw that, we were kind of wondering at that point when the release notes came out, the public preview was not available yet. So we were wondering, oh no, are they actually pushing it all the way to February? But as we just talked about, it is available right now. So that just means that they expect to be generally available through for the general availability for the CRUD Web API in February. So that's great news. Just know that there is somewhat of a dependency here. And so one of the reasons that we think we've got the CRUD Web API available is to support the PCF controls, because the PCF controls would not be that useful if you couldn't interact with data from your, I guess, DataFlex Pro instance, as it's called these days. Yeah, very exciting to see that PCF control support will be coming. I really don't know too many details about it. If I were to make some guesses. I suspect the PCF controls for the portal might be a little bit different than the PCF controls for everything else. Like I don't think all the PCF controls that are available in the PCF.gallery library are just you're gonna be able to just add them to your portal. I think they'll be slightly different, but it'll at least kind of give us this consistent way of building out these controls. So very, very excited to see some more details on that. So hopefully, maybe there'll be in preview in December, but maybe we can get some details, ahead of that and just kind of see what Microsoft is doing there. So, but yes, lots has happened over the last month. And I'm kind of excited by the 2020 stuff. Again, Portal Studio, if you're into that, I personally don't use it a lot. I'm still kind of stuck in my old model-driven app ways because it's just what I know and love. But yeah, very excited about PCF controls and seeing what that can do for portals. Yeah, and so that covers the news for this month. Want to move on to our featured topic today. So I'll let Oliver introduce himself, but I just wanted to again thank him for joining us today. Again, so something I've been doing over the last few years is I've tried to be pretty active on the forums, answering people's questions when I could, and I just noticed over the last little while here that there really wasn't an opportunity to answer questions because Oliver, as well as a couple other people, seemed to be on there and answer questions within 2 or 3 seconds, I think, of people posting them. So I just noticed he was very active, and I wanted to reach out and share my appreciation for what he's doing for the community. And then we got to talking, and I said, hey, do you want to come on and present, what you see as kind of common questions that happen on that they see on the forums? Maybe you could do a session on that. So that's what we've got today. So I will hand it over to Oliver.
Thanks for that, Nicholas. Let me just share.
I'm just going to
just move this. Okay, perfect. Hi, everyone. First of all, I'd like to say a big thanks to Nick and MS Dynamics Word for making this happen. I've been joining the calls since every call that we had so far, I guess. I've learned a lot with Nicholas' content. There's good stuff. I think everybody appreciates what Nicholas has been doing for the community overall. My name is Oliver Rodrigues. I work as Dynamics 365 team lead in Codec, Ireland. I'm originally from Brazil, but I've been living in Ireland for nearly 3 years now, and that's the time I've been working with portals. I've been working with Dynamics 365 for about 8 years, and yeah, doing portal for nearly 3. Like Nicholas said, today I'm going to talk about a few topics that come often in the community forums. I'm very active in the forums, both community.dynamics. I haven't really been looking at that one lately. I'm mostly active in the power users forums nowadays. So yeah, and here's my blog, oliverrodrigues365.com, and also my LinkedIn. Feel free to reach out. So I selected 10 topics that comes frequent in the forums. They're related to completely different areas in the portals. A few of the topics I'll have a demo, so I'll be jumping between the presentation and the demo. So the 10 topic are cache related questions. So why is my data not refreshed? This kind of things. How to hide pages, a few tips on the web link set or the navigation menu, a few tips on custom HTML pages in case you're writing custom HTML pages, a few things around Portal Studio or Portal Management app, a few tips on JavaScript, and a few things that Nicholas already mentioned, so calling custom code, which is the CRUD API, and also PCF controls. How to get the current user's web role, and a tip with an entity form issue when it's rendering and it's not rendering all the attributes in your form. And pretty sure we'll have some time for Q&A. So a few items that you may have come across already. So in related to caching, so your data is not up to date, or your portal configuration is not showing latest definition, or even you can't see the clear cache button. So let's see first a few key points around caching. So caching validation happens through an internal mechanism, and there's no web notification plugin involved. So if you look at very old threads online, you might be seeing someone talking about a web notification plugin. That's gone. That's no longer valid. So if you see that thread, it's probably something old you can just ignore. The SLA for message transfer is 15 minutes. So if you change the data in your CDS or the Dataplex or whatever the Microsoft is calling now, you can expect your data to be refreshed in the portals up to 15 minutes after. If you're performing a transaction in the portals and there's a workflow or a plugin that is synchronous, you don't need to worry about caching because the cache is automatically invalidated in the same transaction. So if you want, let's say, to take any action, send an email or something, as long as that workflow is a synchronous workflow, you don't need to worry about caching. There is a clear cache button available on a common URL. So for your portal URL /services/about, you need to be logged in as an admin. I'll show you guys here after how to make sure you are an admin user. And if you ever have a restore in your Dynamics organization, you might have some issues with caching validation, so you need to go to the admin center and just click a button there. There's also a tip here that I like to share with you guys, is saving a bookmark in your browser with this JavaScript. What this JavaScript is doing is opening a new tab with the clear cache page directly. So it doesn't matter which portal you are, as long as you are in a portal and you click that bookmark in your browser, you will be going to the clear cache page. This is what the clear cache page looks like. So we have a few options here. Clear cache, it will clear the entire cache, so both transactional entities and configuration entities. Rebuild search index is if you're using the global search setup. So you need to use that one in case you change the configurations. And there's now a button, the clear config, which Microsoft introduced quite recently, and that button only clears the portal configuration. It won't clear data itself. So I'll just jump here to my environment and show you guys a few tips. So I'm here in my makepowerapps.com. So I already have my portal here open and I'm already logged in. So this is my JavaScript function that you can see. So if I just click on it, I'm directly brought to my clear cache page. So as you can see, it's completely generic JavaScript. So it doesn't matter the page that you are in the portal, it will just get your root URL and just go to the clear cache page. So I find it very handy. If you're not logged in, if your user is not admin or if you're not logged in, you will probably just see portals and you may not see anything else. It will be a blank page. So how to make sure you are admin? So go to your model-driven app, the Portal Management Studio, navigate to your contacts, select your contact record, and on the related entities, you will see web roles. So here in the web roles, you see that I already have the administrator's web role. If you don't have it, you just click on Add Existing and select the web role here. Now, even if you did this and you still see this page blank, maybe your contact is already cached. So just try signing out or signing back in and you're probably sorted. Another way to clear the cache is going to the Portal Studio. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to my makepowerapps.com. I'm already in my apps menu here. I'm going to select my portal and I'm going to click on Edit. So this will bring me to the Portal Studio. The Portal Studio have this button, the sync configuration, which basically clears the cache as well. Now, one last way to clear the cache, I'm going back here to my makepowerapps.com, and I'm going to navigate to the admin center. So I'm going to click on my Portal app. I'm going to go on Settings and Administration. This will bring me to the admin center. I'm going to go on Portal Actions. And the first option here is to restart this portal. So there's a confirmation. I won't click on restart, but basically this is going to restart my app. The portal usually gets unavailable for a couple of minutes, but after that it's fine, and your cache is also cleared. So yeah, those are a few tips around caching. Second very common question is, how do I secure a page for a certain group of users? So Power Apps Portals gives you the ability to achieve this by using the web page access control rules. Simple way to think is you have a few options when setting up a web page access control rule. Just make sure that the scope is set to all content and the right is set to restrict read. So this will make sure that only that web role that you define in the web page access control rule can see that page. So I'm gonna go back to my portal. I'm going to the portal management app and web page access control rule. So first here in my portal, I'm just gonna use just as an example an out of the box page. So you see that there is the sample product B page. I'll just define this page to be accessed only by authenticated users. So I like to put a prefix, so community call product B web page access control. My website is starter portal. My web page is the product B. My right restrict read, and I'll save. And I'm going to define the web role. So I want only for authenticated users. Once I save, I'm going to clear the cache. So if I refresh here, I should still be able to see the page because I'm already authenticated. I'm going to copy this URL now, and I'm just going to open a new browser and enter the URL. So basically, you can see that it redirects me to the login page because there's an access control there that it won't allow me to view this page. And even if I go here in the menu, you can see that I can see the product A page, but I can no longer see the product B page. So it automatically validates this on the menu, and it will hide the pages in case that user don't have access. Going back here, another common thing is, what if let's say I don't want to restrict the page itself, but I want completely different menu based on the role, based if you're a different web role or authenticated or anonymous. So you need just a small change in the code here. So I'm gonna jump again to my portal management app. I'm gonna go to, first what I'm gonna do is create a new web link set. So basically you can see that a web link set is a group of web links. So you can think as your menu. I'm gonna create a new web link set representing the anonymous menu, for example. English. So very simple menu. I'm gonna add just one link. Which is gonna be an external link. Going to bing.com, perfect. So now you need to make a change in the web template. So I'm gonna open the web template and I'm gonna search for the header web template. Basically, the header web template is responsible for rendering your entire header from your portals. So I'm just gonna search for this line here. So basically, this line here is a liquid code that is assigning, is creating a variable with your web link set object. So I'm gonna just make a small change here. I'm gonna add a validation. So if user, basically if user means if I'm authenticated, if the user object returns data, assign this web link set. Else, so otherwise, just add an end if. I'm gonna assign the web link set that I just created, which is the anonymous menu. I'm gonna save, clear the cache. I'll just clear config. Once more here, I'm gonna refresh the authenticated session, so nothing should happen. I should still see the same menu. But if I go to my other browser and I refresh, I can see a much shorter menu, which is now my anonymous menu. And if I click just as an example, we're going to Bing. So now that we're talking about navigation menu, you may have faced this issue. So whenever you create a custom web page, the page is always added to your menu. So basically what's causing this is Portal Studio. It just refreshes the main navigation menu with any custom page. You can disable the pages from the menu there, but I'm gonna give you a tip to completely avoid this, stop from happening. So just as an example, I'm gonna open the Portal Studio. I'm going to create a new page here. My new lab page. I probably already had one created in the background, so that's why it's creating as a new page too. And if I sync, you can already see that it's already in my navigation menu. Now, this may be useful for you. This maybe not so much. I'm not sure if you always want your custom pages to be shown in the navigation menu. So I think it really depends from your requirement. And even if you create your page via portal management app, so I'm going to create a new page here. Page via management app. So at this moment, if I can still access this page directly if I go here. So you're going to see that the page exists. There's no content, but the page exists, but it's not in the menu. Now, if I just refresh my Portal Studio, I'm just going to click on sync configuration, just waiting to load. It's still not showing here on the preview, but just when I go on sync configuration, you can see that the page was added to my menu. Now, I personally don't like this. Like you may have created a page, but you don't want it to be shown in the portal. So a simple way to stop this from happening is you can just replace your navigation menu. So what the Portal Studio is doing is adding a new web link always to the default web link set. So if you just click here on the blank area and change the navigation menu, for example, to the primary navigation. So now what this is going to do is it's going to change that header web template that I just showed you a few minutes ago. It will change just the instruction that is called in the web link set. It will now point to the primary navigation, but still every page that you create, it's still going to be added to the default web link set. So you might like this feature. It might annoy you. It's really, I think, up to you, up to your requirement. So on custom pages, if you're writing a custom pages and also custom JavaScript, it's very likely that you will add a custom ID to your HTML elements. So in this example here, I just have my element ID. It's a common issue for people to see that those IDs are just disappearing. Now there's a thing in Portal Studio HTML editor that it just refreshes your custom code and it will remove the ID elements. So if you ever face this issue, I would suggest you go into the Portal Management app. So if I just show here, so again, I'm in my Portal Studio. I'm going to, I'll just go to the other page. That's okay. Just copy this URL here. So I'm just gonna go here on the source, the HTML source of this page that I already have my new page. So I'm gonna add an ID to this div here, my div sample. I'm gonna save. Now, why would you add the IDs here? It's very common if you're using JavaScript because you would always be referring to your elements via the ID of that element. So if I just go to that page and I can inspect the element, oh, it's supposed to be there. Oh, I think it already lost the ID. My ID sample. So you can see now that I'm inspecting, I can see the ID of the element. But if I go again in my Portal Studio app, let's say I'm going to make a different change. I'm just going to make the change on the content here. I save. Then let's say you just want to make another change. You can even see that the ID was just gone there. So I personally wouldn't recommend using the Portal Studio app if you need to make this kind of changes in your HTML pages. So if you need to make any changes here, go to your Portal Management app, find your web page. Now, if you're not familiar here with this interface, you always need to know that every web page has at least two web pages. So one being the root or the structure web page, and another one being the localized content web page. So if you have multiple languages, you should have one localized content web page for each language, or at least one for your main language. And every content, so if you want to change JavaScript or if you want to change the content itself of the page, you need to do in the localized web page. So if you go here and you change your HTML here, you won't have any issues with losing the ID of the elements. Okay, so which leads me to the question, which one should I use? Should I go for Portal Studio? Should I go for Portal Management App? I would say they should be used for different purposes. So Portal Studio is a lot more user-friendly for adding content, creating pages. There's very easy drag and drop controls, like Nicholas said, like the Power BI control that we can just drag and drop now. There will be security management coming soon to manage the entity permissions and web roles. So yeah, there's a lot of investment from Microsoft here, and there's a lot of good stuff happening. But at this moment, it's not a complete tool. So if you go on Portal Management App, basically you have access to every portal feature. If you want to change security, if you want to change web templates, if you want to change site settings, everything you can do in the Portal Management App, and not everything you can do in the Portal Studio. So that's one of the main differences. Now, I was already very familiar with Dynamics interface, so for me it was very easy to understand what's happening in the Portal Management App. If you're not that familiar with Dynamics interface, you might struggle in the beginning, but what I also like is that helps you to get a better understanding of the data model, so how the entities are connected to each other and why. So I do like the Portal Management App just to get a better understanding of what's happening in the background, you know. All right. So a few things on JavaScript or jQuery. So one thing that is important to note is that the portals will ignore any business rule or JavaScript that you may have back in your CDS or Dynamics environment. Think of the Power Apps portals as a normal .NET website that you can apply any client-side customization or pretty much any. So the portal comes with the jQuery framework, but if you want, you can also import another framework. Just that any documentation online that you see will be mainly referring to standard JavaScript or jQuery. So if you want to stick with just JavaScript in jQuery, it might be just easier, especially in the beginning. But if you want to import your preferred framework, that's fine as well. Just a few examples here on how to hide or show a few elements. So I have a few here. So hiding a field, a section, a tab, or an entity column, an entity list column, which also works for subgrid. Now, there's no single way on achieving the same results. When we are talking about client-side customizations, there are literally tons of ways that you can achieve the same thing. So yeah, this is just one example. I think my last blog post, I have this piece of code there, so you can also refer there. So to hide or to show, they're very similar, just changing the function at the end there. All right, so Nicholas actually mentioned this one already. So how do I call an action or a workflow or any custom code? So this is something we've been waiting for too long, I guess. It was included in the release wave 1 notes. I think it was supposed to be in preview last month, but it just came last week, which is fine as well. And general availability is scheduled for February 2021. Now, if you want to hear about other methods to achieve similar results, you can check the May Portals community call, where Nicholas explores a bit other techniques. So he talks a bit about companion app and a few other advanced techniques. So that's a great video you guys can check out. Are there any issues with JS library? So Nikita is making a question here if there's any issues with JS libraries, like including a newer version of jQuery. I'm not aware of any issues. I think you can import your library. There's no issues. just from my understanding, is that the jQuery library is imported on the source code of the portals. So if you want a newer version of jQuery, you will probably be importing via web file or directly in your, let's say, tracking code content snippet or something. So you might end up having two of the jQuery being loaded in your website. I wouldn't say it's a problem. Not sure you need as well, unless you really need something new from a jQuery library. And yeah, calling custom action and workflow, it's not yet part of the CRUD API. Yeah, you're right. So most likely the first version of the CRUD API we'll see, it will probably be just create, update and delete records. So to retrieve records, we can use OData or Liquid. And probably in the future, Microsoft will add a way to call action and workflow. Also, something that we really wanted, the community really wanted, Nicholas mentioned, is the PCF control support. So it's included in the release wave 2 notes. And yeah, we are expecting its preview version in December 2020. We don't really know how it's going to look like, but it will open the door for many features within Power Apps portals, something that we community really wants. Okay, how do I get current user's web role? This is a very common requirement to show different content based on the user web role, so not just restricting a page like we talked earlier, but just to change the content. So let's say you have a link to an external website in the middle of your page, and you just want if the link to show to a certain group of users. So you can achieve that via Liquid. There are a few objects in Liquid. So if you use the curly brackets user.roles, that will return an array of roles for that current user. And there's also a filter. So if you use user and use the filter has row and the name of the row, it will return a Boolean true or false if that user has that specific row. You can achieve the same via JavaScript. Now, just one thing to note when using JavaScript and Liquid, your JavaScript is not running Liquid. So what it's actually running is what the Liquid has already evaluated in the server side. So when your page is loading, the Liquid happens at server side. And once your JavaScript is reading that, it's just reading the results of your Liquid expression. So if I just go here, let me jump. So as I'm already in this page here, I'm in the new page show, which is just an example. I can just copy and paste a code here that I already have. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to display all my user roles. I'm going to check if my user is admin. Then I'm going to loop through all the roles. If I save this, clear config, and refresh my page. So it's not formatted, but it's just an example. So you can see that it's showing just my array as one string, but I have two web roles here, the administrator and the authenticated users. Is user admin through, and I'm looping through my roles here just as an example. So again, the same thing you can achieve via JavaScript in case you want to display a different content via JavaScript or display a different message based on the role. The final tip here is around entity form. So you may have seen this. It's a tricky one. It's not very easy to reproduce. Basically, what happens here is the portal there's an issue that the portal can't find your form back in your CDS or Dynamics 365. And instead of rendering your form with the actual attributes from your form, it would be showing just those you can see in screen there, the status, reason, name, and created fields. And then like you can just keep clearing the cache, publishing your customization. You can do whatever you want, and it will just be rendering always that page, which is very odd. So how to solve this? All you have to do is rename your form. So if I jump to my makepowerapps.com, so I'll jump to the solutions in the menu. I already have a solution here. So I have a custom, just as an example, I have an application entity and in the form. So this is where we are designing the forms here in the model-driven app. And all you have to do is edit the form and rename the form. In fact, there's a good practice that I would recommend is always creating different forms for the portal. So you can have, let's say, you can keep the information main form for the backend users, and you create a second form for the portals. You can always use a naming convention, so you can have a different portal prefix or a web, something to identify that form is used in the portals. So that's something that I would recommend. Also, you can set the form. Sorry, if I go on the settings of the form, you can define security roles. So basically, you can set the portal web form, the portal forms to not be shown for your users in the Dynamics app in case you have Dynamics 365 users. So yeah, one thing I always do, I always create multiple forms. Yeah, I know I covered different topics, but those are just several things that come in the forum, in the community forums questions. I hope this has been useful for you guys. Just gonna check here the questions. Yeah, when I installed Partner Portal, there are many changes to Dynamics, extra features. If I launch, so yes, I'm sorry, I'm not sure I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Jawad is asking here. So she installed the Partner Portal, and there's a lot of extra features in Dynamics 365 that you may not necessarily want, because it might get just too busy the screen for your users. So would I suggest creating a different app? Yes, definitely. You can create a different app in your model-driven, a new app in your model-driven app, and just showing certain views or certain entities or certain dashboards. So that will reduce a lot the look and feel for the user. Those were really helpful. Thank you. Thank you. Feel free to disable plugins and workflows coming from the partner portal. Yes. So whenever you install any portal template, there is a bunch of out-of-the-box plugins and workflows. If you feel that you're not using, you can disable them. That's fine. That's not a problem. Any other questions? Oh, again, thanks everyone for listening. Big thanks again. Thanks very much, Nicholas, for the opportunity of having me here, and thanks MS Dynamics Word for hosting this as well.
Great, yeah, no, thanks a lot, Oliver, for those tips. All great things for everyone to know here. I'll just switch back here to make myself presenter, and we'll just kind of wrap some things up here, as well as yeah, if anyone's got more questions, we can definitely deal with that. Let me just get my presentation back up here from current slide and show my screen. All right. So I just did want to mention that the next call will be August 20th, same time. The topic next month is still to be determined. So if you do have any ideas, please let me know if there's any specific topics you want me to cover. I've got an idea for next month, but if someone else out there has a better idea, I'm always happy to kind of do what it is that the community is looking for. So there is that. Again, thank you to the folks over at MS Dynamics World for hosting us and helping us out here. And yeah, well, I think there's a few more questions here that I can deal with. So why does the D365 Marketing App Events Portal require a separate portals license? So I have done my best, and I'm proud to say that I've so far successfully completely avoided the marketing events portal. It's a complete, I don't say it's completely different, but it's very much different. They're using somewhat of the same underlying portal architecture. It's the same kind of technology underneath, but it's implemented using React and a bunch of different techniques. So yeah, I haven't really gone much into it. So why does it require a separate license? To be honest, I'm not even sure how the licensing works, if that kind of falls under the Power Apps Portals license or if it's still kind of under the old model. But yeah, unfortunately, I don't know any more details about how licensing works for the events portal. I thought maybe that it's been kind of, it would follow along with how the Power Apps Portals licensing works, but I'm not too sure, to be honest. Or maybe it's just included as part of your the way that the marketing app is licensed. So I'm not sure about that, unfortunately.
Yeah, my understanding is that it's tied to the marketing app, so that's why it requires the marketing license.
Okay, so you just get the license for the, like, it's included as part of the marketing, because I know the marketing is licensed in a kind of a different way based on how many kind of people you're marketing to and all that sort of stuff. So
I'm not sure it's included, but it requires the marketing license.
Yeah. Okay. Why can't I add it to the partner portal? Yeah, again, that thing is just completely separate, and it doesn't really kind of play together with really any of the other templates that I'm aware of. Yeah, if you need kind of an event portal, that's something that you can kind of build kind of from scratch on top of the partner portal, but no way of kind of combining those two together that I'm aware of. Cheryl mentioned that it seems to be becoming more like WordPress. Yeah, so any other questions? We've got, I think it's, there's 5 more minutes here. I'm not seeing any other questions here. Let's see here. I know Nikita had asked about the new versions of jQuery, which I think Oliver you talked about, but yeah, you can include new versions of jQuery, but there are, there's potentially some conflicts. There's like jQuery doesn't really recommend having multiple versions installed at the same time, so because it can lead to some kind of strangeness. So kind of at your own risk, it is technically possible if you want to kind of fight with it and get it to work. Yeah, and then, oh yeah, Jawad's question about installing the partner portal, which you've already kind of dealt with here. In that case, the two portals that I typically install are either the community portal or the partner portal. Even if a customer just needs what's included in the customer portal, community portal just has a couple extra features like ideas and blogs that maybe you don't need, but it's a lot easier if you ever do need them to kind of turn them back on than it is to try and add them to a portal that doesn't already have it. So yeah, it's yeah. So in your case, to be honest, I'd still stick with the partner portal and turn off the things that you don't need. You can kind of clean up the forms, and as Nikita mentioned, kind of turn off some of the plugins. And then building out, if you're kind of more concerned about what it does to your model-driven app behind the scenes, then yeah, you could kind of build out a model-driven app. Those are pretty quick to make these days. So Well, thank you for the nice comment there, Jawad. I'm happy that there's at least a few people out there that are listening to my videos and reading my blogs and all that sort of stuff. So great to hear that. I see an idea here for next month: hybrid environment surfacing on-prem Dynamics 365 data. Oh, on-prem, hey? That's a good question. Yeah, I mean, Power Apps portals and on-prem out of the box, there's no support for that. If you do have on-prem, I have a tough time recommending that you'd go back to the open source, XRM Portals Community Edition. It's just getting so old right now. So I'd be looking at a third-party solution, maybe. Like, I know Portal Connector and the Alexa CRM solutions have support for on-prem. So I would maybe be looking at a third-party vendor that does have support. Maybe this is a group that I can ask. One of the things I was thinking about doing, I don't know if I'll have it kind of arranged for next month, but one of the session topics I was considering doing is looking at all the, some of the options that aren't Power Apps portals for building portals on top of, which I guess Data Flex Pro or CDS. So if anyone thinks that would be interesting, some of the options that we typically have used in the past would be the Alexa CRM plugin for WordPress, the Portal Connector, which is built on top of Sitefinity, and I think there's one for Drupal called WebCurl. So let me know if you think that would be a useful topic to kind of go through some of the other options. And again, that would be kind of your best options for on-prem support. All right, well, I think that is it. Jason, I think we can probably end it here. Thanks again, everyone, for showing up today and your interest in portals, and hope to see you next month on the 20th.
Great. Well, Nicholas, thank you as always, and Oliver, great to have you joining us for the first time.
Thank you.
First of many.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, please come back anytime for sure. With that, we are going to wrap up. Please do look for an email with recording details and whatever else we decide to add to it coming to you soon. With that, we're going to conclude. Have a great day, everybody.